Welcome to Coinology, the podcast.
You ain't getting no money if you constantly worried about what everybody else got to say. If you constantly got your eyes on what everybody else doing, you ain't getting no money. When it comes down to closing a deal, I get it done. Every single one. I'm the certified deal closer.
Welcome to Coinology, the podcast. Hey. Welcome to another episode of Coinology Season Tray. And I am so excited about today's interview. I know you guys hear me say that a lot, but I am super excited today. I am sitting next to not only a very dear friend of mine, but someone that I care about tremendously. I've seen her grow, I've seen her struggle, and now I'm seeing her succeed at astronomical success. I have none other than executive producer, director, writer, creative development, nothing more than superstar, Jennifer Pessima.
Thank you, Ed. It's so funny, breaking out of the imposter syndrome and hearing someone say what you do and what you've done. And I'm like, oh, that's
what's amazing is that you feel shy about it. And then the people who haven't done anything feel proud about wearing these titles around and they haven't done anything. One of the things I always tell people is you can tell the people who are really doing the work, they're not necessarily talking about it. They're so busy working. And you are an epitome of someone that's working.
Yeah.
I remember, guys, I met Jennifer almost a decade ago.
Yeah.
Not fully, but almost a decade ago. When I met Jen, she was working on set for the Creflo Dollar show, talk show. You were a talent producer then, right? You were very, very adamant about the fact that you were going to be a big time producer in Hollywood. You had just recently graduated from Clark.
Yeah.
Right? And you were just multi-level marketing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you were also producing for the Creflo Dollar show.
Yeah.
And a lot of people I meet, they tell me they're going to be the next big thing. And I don't necessarily believe everybody. Not that I discount them, but it was something about you. Yeah. It was something about the shine in your eye and your determination. And I met you because I was bringing a client onto the show. But it was something about you where we connected, and we connected beyond just booking talent for the show. I was like, this is somebody that I need to watch. And when I tell you, I am not surprised at all to see you sitting here with the level of success that you've obtained.
Yeah.
But most people think that success happened overnight. No, and most people don't know the true story of Jennifer, right? I don't even know everything. So we're going to talk today. We're going to go take it all the way back, right, to the beginning, right? Another thing that you and I have in common, we both are DMV girls, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
so you were born and raised where, Jen?
Prince George's County. I grew up in District Heights.
Okay.
So DMV area, not too far from Washington, D.C., and I graduated from Suitland High School. And one of the things that I love about our city is some of the greats. I grew up with some of the greats. So to be around them and to be friends with them was kind of like the first evident to me, like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it, coming from unforeseen circumstances and we grew up out of some tough situations and being in some of the greats. Like my best friend, he went off to be in the NFL, Devin Tyler, Cliff Dixon, who passed away, and we would be in Kevin Durant's house, talking to his mama and his father, and those things that you didn't know that person during that season was working on something that you can look and be inspired by. So now when he made it, I wasn't like, okay, let me go to him for help. It kind of was like, the Mike Beasleys, the Navarro Bowman. Like Navarro Bowman mother would teach me like cheerleading and things like that, and he went off and became a championship in the NFL. It only grew in me to be who God had called me.
Called you to be. You know, one thing I noticed is that when you meet people of excellence or of a certain stature, you end up finding out that, you know, this person is best friends with someone, they grew up with so-and-so, their cousin is so-and-so, and you're like, wow, how did all of these great people just so happen to grow up together, right? Because to find out that Beyonce and Gabrielle Union were best friends growing up, I'm like, what's the likelihood of that? But let's take it all the way back to DMV, right?
Yeah.
So you were born to a two-parent household, right? Mm-hmm. Your parents were originally from Africa?
Yes, Sierra Leone. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they actually immigrated here.
Yes.
Okay, so were you born here?
I was born here, and my two older siblings was born in Sierra Leone. Okay. So when we got here, when they got here, my father got here first. Mm-hmm. And true love, he sent for my mother. And then they started to have babies, and he sent for my grandmother, her mother. Okay. You know, so once they got here, we started to live the life of, I didn't even know it was 6 of us when we were younger. Until I got older, we would get calls from Africa. We would send money back to Africa. And I was like, who's in Africa?
Wait a minute, hold on. You didn't know. So how many brothers and sisters did you know that you had?
I knew it was 4 of us.
Okay.
Because that's who grew up. So I looked at my sister Mary as the oldest sibling.
Okay.
And she was the one who was hard on us with our works and stuff. But we had 2 older siblings in Africa, and it's one of those things you grow up and people think you just know. But if you know, the growing up in the African household, everyone is family. You know, everyone is a sister or brother or
so
aunt.
You had no idea that you had 2 siblings in Africa. So no one ever said, this is why we're sending money home.
It was an assumption. Like, it's your sister in Africa. And we're like, yeah, like you said, our uncle's in Africa. But when you really look at it, we not blood related. So it was kind of one of those things. And then when my brother came, I was like, oh, he looked like us, you know. And it was now we're like this. But at the end of the day, it was like one of those like, oh, I have more family over there. And it wasn't until I went there, I was able to see like, oh, shoot, it's a lot of us over here.
So being raised by African parents in the United States, so in Prince George County, right? Did you find it difficult to navigate? You know, did you find the African American kids not understanding your culture?
Yeah, all the time. You know, a lot of the stereotype is people come over here and become taxi cab drivers. My father was a taxi cab driver. My mother was a housekeeper. Alongside of that, my father had like 3 jobs. So he was very adamant about providing for us. He was a teacher. He worked overnight. And from that, I think what grew in me was you got to work hard, you got to be humble, and you shouldn't be afraid to serve. You know, here it is, my mom is a housekeeper and my father is a taxi cab driver, 2 of the most the hospitality jobs there is, and it never grew in me the fear of being ashamed. People used to joke, your father's a taxi cab driver, your mother's a housekeeper. But for me, it was like, we eating, you know, like the keeping the lights on. Sometimes the lights will go off, but at the end of the day, we never got put out of our house, you know. So just to see that and to see someone come. When I went to Africa and saw the way that we lived, I was like, yo, I have nothing but mad respect for my mom and dad. Like, we didn't have a bathroom in our house in Africa. They would have to go to the stream to pull water. We would have to go shower in that same stream. And I was like, dang, you know, we came from absolutely nothing, and then to come to where I am today, I'm like, I'm working for my last name, like Dame Dash said. Like, yo, you saw it, you saw where you came from, you saw where your father pulled you out of. Now it's your job to take that and go hard in whatever you're supposed to be doing.
I know I went to Africa for the very first time about 20 years ago, and I know that was the most, and I've been several times since, but the very first time that I went was the most life-changing for me, because when I went at that time, the internet service and all that stuff wasn't where as strong as it is now. So, there was no connection back to work or any of that. And I saw pure happiness in the people there. I saw people in houses with no lights. There were no doors. There were, the windows were there, but there was no glass. There was no toilets. The kids were outside with diapers on, playing with rocks, and they were happy. I saw genuine happiness that was not tied to material things. And I sit back and I wonder, I'm like, you have all these kids that have all these different toys that they never even touch, and all they do is complain. And you have these kids over here who have absolutely nothing but happiness and health, and they're happy.
Yeah.
They're happy.
And that's exactly what happened. We had a generator. The only time the lights would come on was on the holidays. So we were there, and when the lights was on, light done come. It was like a party. We was like, light done come. So it was very exciting to see someone happy just for the small things that we take for granted, And
well, I already know if you came from an African household, education was key.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure you had no choice then. But before we even get to college in Clark, Atlanta, I hear in the grapevine your name was Ice, right? And so where did the name come from, and why did they call you Ice?
So my middle name is Isata. So people call me Ice for short, but that name really grew on me because where we grew up, like I said, it was a very difficult city. We grew up, they used to call us gas station and home rap, and these are, I know since you from back home, go-go bands. So those were those would be the things that we would submerge ourselves in. I was going to the go-go. We had fake IDs and everything, and when you go to those atmosphere, you had to be a part of something, or you're gonna get beat up. So our group was. We had a group.
Well, I heard you were one of the rough ones in the group. I can't even imagine, though, Jen, you being so sweet and just so nice. Now, I hear that back in the day, you were no joke.
At all. Was
it anger issues? What do you think it was?
I think it was a lot. I think it was trying to fit in. It started from that, and then of course we haven't gotten there yet, but my parents passing away, so that of like,
how old were you when your parents passed away?
My mom passed away when I was 15. No, we didn't know, like, she passed away from natural causes, so they say, in her sleep, and then after that we saw my father have a broken heart. So he grew and had a broken heart, and then he left. I was like, it's not like he just left and went down the street or went to another city. He went back to Africa.
Wait a minute. So he left you guys here?
Yes.
So how old were your mother passed away at 15?
Yeah.
And how soon thereafter did your father leave?
2 years later.
So 17. You were 17, yeah. And you didn't know? Did you know he was going back to Africa
to visit? That's what I thought.
And he didn't come back.
He didn't come back. So out of that, I grew an anger towards him, because here I am, my mom passed away, and then my father decides to get up and leave. And, hurt people. He was hurt. So therefore, I was young. I couldn't identify with that. I just knew he left. So he would call back home and try to tell me what to do. I'm like, you in Africa, how you going? So I didn't know he had a broken heart. I didn't know those phone calls would be the last phone calls that I would have with him. And I would ignore it. I would be like, oh, he's in Africa. I'm finding my way. I'm working. I'm living from different houses, different friends. Friends are letting me live.
Yeah, I was about to say, so who took care of you? Well, what happened? Your father left and went, right? So your sisters and brothers probably took care of you for a couple of months, right?
Yeah. So my sister Mary, she's always there. But during that time, we all were broken, so we got into it a lot. So I ran away like any other child. But that running away got me to living with different friends. And like, okay, I'm gonna sleep on your couch today, or I'm gonna sleep in your bed today. And the friends that I surrounded myself with right now is probably why we're so thick with it. We're family, because I literally lived with them.
Their parents didn't wonder, like, where's Jennifer's parents?
Well, they knew my parents passed away. It was big. If your parents passed away in high school, it's like.
So nobody called DFACS or anywhere and said, this is a young girl out here with no parents. Somebody come and pick her up. And
well, because my sister Mary, she took over the household. So it was like she's 10 years older than me.
Okay.
So they were like, okay, she's with a sibling who is able to take care of her, but we would clash. I was growing. I was a teenager. She would make sure she didn't want me in trouble. So I just was like, I don't want to. I wrote a letter, left it on the TV, and left. And she went from house to house looking for me, trying to figure out where I was. But I think the parents understood, like, okay, they all are young. And they're all dealing with this. So this is how she's coping with it. My sister Mary's kind of hard. So she would be like, no, this is what I said, you know, and I would be
well,
like.
she had to be,
Yeah,
right?
she had to be.
She had
She's the
to be.
oldest.
Yeah, and in a DMV, and you were trying to make sure that, you know, she was 27.
Yeah.
She had to try to operate with limited knowledge on what to do with the 17-year-old, right? Yes. So you're now basically an orphan at this point. And you're living from friend to friend's couch. How do you end up at Clark? Like, how do you know that instead of saying, let me go get a job at McDonald's, at the mall or somewhere to put food on my plate, how do you think I need to go off? Because a lot of people use excuses about, like, I can't go to, I don't have any money, I don't have any parents, I don't have da. How did you end up go to Clark?
I always knew it was something more for me. So I didn't start at Clark. I went to Coppin State.
Okay.
And it was too close from home. I was going home every other week, dating the wrong type of men, just really in the wrong lifestyle. And I was like, this is too close, you know? So we went on a college tour while we was in high school. And I told myself, I'm going to go to Atlanta. And I would tell people I'm from Atlanta. I don't even know why I did that. But I would meet people and I'd be like, I'm from Atlanta. And, you know, so we went to Clark Atlanta University. So I just applied. And I always had good grades or good enough. You know, I wasn't the smartest, but I knew my parents was like good grades, you know. So I had a scholarship to go to Coppin another year for free. Or go to Clark Atlanta. And I chose Clark Atlanta. So when I got here, like, it was me and my friends. We took a road trip. And I was like, yo, I got into Clark. I'm staying. And they was like, what? You know, it was one of those sporadic things of like, this is where faith is drawing me to. You know, I didn't really.
So that means that immediately you're a college student. You're going to Clark. Clark is not cheap.
No, not at all.
And you don't have any family support at this point.
No.
So you know, how did you keep your head above water? Were you getting lots of jobs? Was it the boyfriends? What was it?
No, I worked overnight.
Overnight.
So I worked overnight.
Okay.
I went to school during the day.
Okay.
I would get to school around 5, 6, go sleep in the library. When school would start, I would go to class. And then I would go volunteer. And that's what a lot of people don't really know. A lot of my years in the production industry was serving. I started to volunteer at Dr. Dollar Church. And I would go there and volunteer and literally have 3 hours to sleep right before work and get it done. You know, so the beautiful thing about it is my professors knew my story. And I think sometimes people are ashamed of their story, but hey, no, this is where I'm at. My parents are deceased. I'm putting myself through college. I'm working overnight. And I know I'm supposed to go to school because that's what my parents told me to do. And that's the dream I want to see fulfilled, at least. You know, so they kind of would. I was just talking about that. Dr. Stevens at Clark Atlanta University would come while I was asleep in the library and be like, time to wake up, sweetie. Let's go to class. And I just loved her. She was one of the hardest teachers, but from that, she would fail me. And I would just be like, I love her. Just because
Did she remind you of your mother?
She did. My mother was soft. My mother was me. My father was like, She probably reminded me of my father, but just the fact that she knew like I could do better. And she would like give me bad grades, but she did allow me to pass, but she knew like she would give me different chance it. And I love that about her.
Now, I know we skipped on to Clark, but before you even went to Clark back in D.C., you actually have been shot twice.
Yeah, I did.
And then when I said shot not once, shot twice.
I was in a gang.
Name Ice.
Yeah.
From DMV.
BTO.
And so let's go back. You were in a gang?
Yeah, so we had a male gang. It
Okay.
was called Gas Station. And then the girls in my neighborhood really didn't like me. And that was because I made new friends and I bring them in the hood and then they'll be like, oh, and then the guys liked the girls and I was always the great connector. And so the hate started to come on me. So we would go to the clubs and the girls... You can bother me. I don't care. You can get in my face. You can say whatever you want to say about me. But when it comes to the people that I love, it's something of anger that grows inside of me that's like, hold up, wait, So I was always the first one to pop off if you did something to me.
Jennifer? Popping off? I can't imagine. I can't imagine this. Okay, so you were the first one.
The first one to pop off. The first one to... let loose. And when I say pop off, it was a scary situation. I don't even know what drew me there. I knew it was, I would write letters. I'm a big write it down and watch it happen type of person. And I'm seeing that right now in my life where I would write down about death. I wanted to die. I didn't want to commit suicide because I felt like that was a sin. But when my mom passed, I still have the letters and I'll be like, Mommy, I just want to be with you. And when you do that in your heart, you're making an agreement with death. I just want to be with you. So people would pull guns out on us. People would talk to us any kind of way. The male gangs, we would be the girls in the male gang. So the guys in the other hood would not like us, and if they saw us on the street, they'll pull out a gun. So it was very dangerous. I saw people get killed. I was in a we were just talking about this. I used to sell Nextels, the chirp. And everybody in the hood was on the same line, and those phones was evidence in a murder case. And so right before I was going to college, the enemy tried to stop you. We had the detectives at my house saying I was involved in a murder case because the phone lines was in my name. And the guy who actually, was in it, he's still in jail to this day. But I sold him a phone. We were there when it happened. And we was like, really, people were afraid of us. And I didn't know that until you grew and saw because in your mind, you're like, this is regular. This is how we grow up.
So getting shot twice was regular.
We thought that.
Okay, so the first time, were these accidents or did they actually come up to you?
Purpose. It was purposeful.
And so each time you were fighting for your life?
Well, it was one incident, but I just happened to get shot twice. We was leaving a go-go. My best friend was in a fight. I would go to her rescue. We piled up in a car. We went to her rescue. And literally the ambulance was on that street. Cops was on that street. We walked down the street. We see some of the girls that she fought. So immediately we we gonna go smack. We're gonna go right at them. So we saw them and we went towards them. Her boyfriend is watching us. Of course. He's like, you on my block. This DC now. We right down the street from Gallaudet, right down the street from Slocum Quarters. He like, y'all on my street about to go after my baby mother. He pull out the gun. And I'm like not really paying attention or really not even caring. I don't even think it wasn't even a paying attention. It was, I don't care right now about life. So he pulled out the gun and my other best friend was like, oh, we gotta go. And I'm like, nah, we don't gotta go. Kill me. I literally said that, and my friends, after we're older, we kind of make jokes about it. But during that season, I didn't care. So I went straight to him, and he wasn't going to shoot. I just knew it. But someone else ran towards him. It was like, shoot her. And he was running towards the gun. And so my friend was like, I don't want you to die. And something snapped in me to be like, okay, I have to run. So I ran, and when we got in the car, I was shot twice. I got shot in my leg and I got shot in my foot. So once we got there, the ambulance was still down the street. One of my friends picked me up and she took me and put me right in the ambulance. And they, the scary thing about that was it was millimeters away from a vein. And I think the football player had just died because he got shot in a vein. And so I thought I was clear, but I had passed out, and they was like, oh, she's passing out because it hit a vein. And, you know, I'm like still too laughing and stuff. But then when we got to the hospital, I just remember, and this is probably where everything has shifted in my life. I saw a man there. Nobody else saw the man. And I told him to pray for me. And he came, he had the Bible, and he prayed for me. And once I came to, because I was in Clark then. I was at Clark and Landon.
Okay, you were at Clark. So
Yes.
you had left being a college girl, went back home and integrated with, and that's why a lot of times they say when you leave certain
don't
groups,
go back.
don't go back.
Yeah.
Right. And you went back. So at that time, is that when you found God?
Yeah, that's when he found me. Cause I was like, I thought I knew God, but that's when, because I was still, I was in class and I would go home every other weekend. I was dating a guy. He'd fly me out. So I was like, oh, okay.
So you were flued out before flued out was a thing.
Before flued out. I would come home, main reason to see him, and we would have fun. And then that particular time, it was like Valentine's Day, you know, so I flew home and we still would go to the go-go. That would be our everyday. And we fought, I got shot, and then I just knew once that prayer happened, something stuck within me, like, oh, shoot, you know. So after that, I started to go to World Changers, Dr. Dollar Church.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when I met you, you were heavily involved at World Changers. And it seems like, so whoever this Ice person is, I don't know her. I've never met Ice. But so when did you know that you wanted to be a producer?
Well, I believe I knew I wanted to tell stories. So I used to talk about that in high school. One of my best friends, Dedrick, he's like my brother. He still remembered we would be in accounting class and I'd be like, yo, I want to make movies. You know, I would always come to them and be like, yo, I want to make movies. Had no idea I could get there. Didn't even think it was real, but I just knew that was something that I knew in my heart that I wanted to do. So when I started to go to Dr. Dollar Church, I would see the camera people, and I'd be like, "Yo, that's what I want to do." And then I would see the drama ministry, and I'd be like, "That's what I want to do. I want to write for them. I want to shoot for them." So I started to serve. I was like, "How can I do this, even if I got to do it for free?" So for 3 to 4 years, I was doing it for free. And that's something that I look at now. Like, who is serving in their purpose, in their gift, because that's just what they're called to do. Because if you can do that, that means you're passionate about it. That means you can do it.
You know, I was just sharing with someone a couple of days ago. We were talking about a situation, and we said, well, I know for a fact, and I said, I know for a fact, Jennifer won't do X, Y, and Z because money doesn't move Jennifer.
It doesn't.
Jennifer is moved off of purpose.
Yeah.
And I said that is one of the reasons why Jennifer remains blessed, because if it's not right and if it's not a part of the mission that God has placed over her life, she's not going to do it. It doesn't matter how much money it is. And I think if you look back over the humble beginnings that you had, where you was humble with your mom and dad, right, when they were alive. And then even after they passed away, you were living from couch to couch to couch. When you were in college, you were sleeping in the library and working overnight. You're conditioned to know that I have to work for what I want, and taking an easy way out isn't an option for me, right?
It isn't.
And so when you say purpose, what is your purpose, Jen?
Okay, so it's funny because I think seasons of isolations, like in 1 year, my life had went from here to like here, you know, and in those seasons of isolations, I would be like, okay, it would hurt. So I would be like, okay, what am I called to do?
Because you question that. I know, because even though you want to be a producer, and most people say you want to be a producer, but where the heck is the money, right?
Yeah.
So you graduate, and then there's no consistent income, right?
Yeah.
So there's been years where it was down, right?
Of course, yeah. And then I would do network marketing,
Right.
and then I would go back home and try to figure it out. But the one consistent thing that God would continue to drop into me is storytelling.
But how did you know? Oh, that's another thing I wanted to ask you about before you get into storytelling. How did you know, like, security, when you say go home where though, Jen? Like, mom and dad aren't here.
Yeah.
So how do you feel when you know, where do you go? Like,
The reason why, and I think last year was such a eye-opening factor to me, when I call you my sister, I mean it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because when I go home, I could go to Lacey house, Portia house, Michaela house, Callie house, Devin house. You know, I can go to my real blood sisters are the people that I chose as my sisters. So they would fight. They'd be like, why you ain't come sleep? I got a room, you know, and where it's a lot of, in this day and age, is you could be ashamed of what you're going through. I think they understand my journey. They empathize with me. I would go home and they'd be like, oh, I got a job for you. So a lot of people don't have that type of love or those type of relationships where I took that and came here and was like, oh, you my friend, you my sister. We gonna go to bat for each other. And I realized that's not how regular people do it. So I was very blessed in that area. You know, sometimes I may stay at my sister's house when I go home, or sometimes I may get a call from somebody else, or Callie, who's like, yeah, come stay with me, best friend, you know. So my friends are truly my family. And I think that's one of the main blessings that I'm realizing in life, is like having those type of relationships who you can call on any type of hour of the day. Even here, you know, some more when my brother got killed, Cliff Dixon.
That's what I wanted talk about, because you lost your brother around the same time I lost my brother.
Yeah.
So what happened there?
When I say my brother, people are like, that's not your blood brother. He would go to bat if you be like, that's not your blood brother. And I noticed that with me around him, I brought him a sense of peace. And I didn't even know how much trust he had in me, like the ability to share his locations. His head will always be on a swivel. Like, we would go to a restaurant, he'd be looking like, and I'd be like, we good, like, we good. But he trusted in me so much, where I knew where he lived. I knew his where he was, his whereabouts. He didn't have that here in Atlanta. But when he moved here and was able to have that with me, and I known him for over 25 years, we knew his whole family, but at the end of the day, he was house to house too when we were in high school. So it was like we all kind of merged together, where we like, oh, you know, my friend was his godmother just because she knew, like, okay, this little boy is house to house. So at the end of the day, it was the people around us that rallied around us. But when he got killed, I went through depression. Like, it was a big case when you had to go to the hospital and say, yes, that's I know him, and identify the body and leave that situation. And he was supposed to host my movie premiere. So we literally, the day of my movie premiere, we had to pack him out of his house and ship him up and send him back to Maryland. So the very next day, I was planning a funeral the same day I was planning my first movie premiere.
Was he murdered?
He was murdered. And we was called on the stand with that. We was meeting with different detectives. So I didn't know them, but I went through post-traumatic stress disorder. So I was growing anxiety. When I would drive around the house, I would stop. And I'd be like, what is going on? So I went back to Maryland. I left everything. I went back to Maryland, stayed with my family, and I think out of that, I was able to fill back up on love. I was able to get like, oh, okay, I'm safe. You know, because during that time when he got killed, I had to share my location with everyone, you know, because it was some threats. And with that,
was this based back to the gang life that you guys lived?
No, it was threats of me being too bold about finding out who did it.
Okay.
It's social media. I would be bold, like, whoever did this, if you go back to what I was saying. Like, it was like that in me, like.
So it took you back to ICE.
Yes.
You went back to ICE.
Yes. And it was like, people back home would call me and be like, hey, sis, kind of chill out because people are watching your page. And the detectives would call and stuff. And I'd be like, the detectives ain't doing nothing. We can figure this out, So at the end of the day, I didn't know how much attention that had brought to me. And then people would be like, yo, it's kind of a big thing right now. You kind of want to lay low. So then out of that was like, because we didn't know who did it. And he would come to my house. So I'm like, oh, so they know where I live, and I even, was trying to figure out some safety things. Not the right things, but I was like, okay, I'm here by myself. So I moved. I moved in with my friends. And then at the end of the day, I went back to D.C.
Okay. And did they ever find out who did it?
No, still to this day.
Still unsolved. And do you guys have any ideas of what happened or?
We had different, this and that and this and that. And some people said that people was able to share the truth. And we feel like we know, but everybody feels like they know when stuff like that happens. You start to question everybody and everything. But I know one thing. He was very big about me dreaming. Like he would tell everybody, my sister's gonna be the next big top producer. So a lot of when I went back home, I would remember that. And that's how This Is 30s was birthed.
And then I remember seeing you talk about This Is 30. You did a major thing for Tubi. I remember because at the time I had never even heard of Tubi.
Me either.
And all I knew is that I saw you promoting This Is 30s. This is my first project. It's a series. Support me. Because because of the way that Tubi's set up, it's all about the views. And because, again, you being who you are, people loving Jennifer for who she is, people went out their way to support.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, I don't even know what this Tubi thing is, but I searched online. I found out how to download it on my computer, on my home TV, smart TV. And I was sitting there getting my hair braided, and we watched all of the episodes, and I was so proud of you.
Yeah.
So proud.
Yes,
because
you called me immediately.
I called you. I think I was sitting there getting my hair braided too at that moment. And I said, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. And during those times, I wasn't doing it for people. I was doing it because it was my lifeline. Like I literally went home. I was living with my brother at the time, my real brother, the one that came from Africa. He had 5 kids. So I would sleep in his office and I would write because I would wake up at midnight to write. But I was like, well, I'm going to just stay here and write. So out of that, he saw something in me. And when you go to Atlanta and you telling people you about to make it, they don't see it, so they don't believe it.
Because everybody says that.
Yes.
Everybody.
So when I went home, he saw that. And one thing you always say is, Jen, it's not everybody who get investors.
That's right.
And from then, he was like, I want to forget what you're doing over here. Like, you need to keep doing that. And I'm like, I just was in Atlanta. You ain't never say that. Like, but he had to see it for himself. And so he started to invest in me. And then he was the first person. And then Portia and then Sponge. Well, actually, Tyreek was the first person who did BBW. He was the EP of that. And every time I asked for the money, I never not get it.
It's amazing. Every single project that you touch always gets funding. And always. I keep telling you.
I didn't know.
I keep telling you that is not normal. Even, let's talk about some of the betrayals in the industry that you've gone through. Yeah. And we'll talk about that. But I will tell you, even every time you go through that, it's like you always come back stronger and stronger and stronger. When we say betrayals, we're talking about people who promise and say they're going to do things and make big promises and don't come through or misalign themselves, right? What are some of what was the most hurtful time for you as far as some of the betrayals that have taken place?
I think it was 2 hits I took back to back, and that was last year. And I think you remember I was so excited about a studio. I was like, I got a studio. This is a studio. And, and I didn't know how detrimental it was to put something out there on social media and for it not to be true. Like, if I believe it's true, I'm going to share it with I had hundreds of people coming to tour that studio. And slowly but surely, the person who I went into partnership with was like, you gotta leave. So I was evicted from a studio, like literally 24 hours to grab my stuff and go. And that came from people above him, where he was like, you just had to go. And I was very sad. It took me days to get out of that because I was.
But he took all of your ideas.
Yeah.
And your relationships.
Yep.
And the people that you introduced him to and concepts. And he kept those things.
Yep. He kept them. But if you don't have the spirit or what's you can steal the recipe, but the sauce won't taste the same.
That hurt.
Yeah,
hurt.
Definitely hurt. One of my friends, Quincy, he told me go into a hotel. I was in a hotel for 3 days. Just crying and just like, dang, I just got off the phone with Big Tigger, who was about to host the grand opening. So
I remember you called me.
Yeah.
You was like, sis, we just need to talk.
Yeah.
And I was in the middle of something and I stopped what I was doing. I could not believe that had happened to you.
Me either. And I was even trying to get you to PR the studio and everything, only because I was trying to set him up with the right team. Because one of the things I do is like, I look at something and be like, how can I make, I thank God that I don't have a jealous or envy bone in me. And even if I feel like that, I go straight to God and be like, what is that? And sometimes it don't even be me. And he's like, you picking it up from, so when I went in there, I was like, how can I help this studio grow? And that's when I was like, well, let me give him this, So that was something that I always, and I still have that. So
that was the first betrayal.
Yes.
What else happened?
Right after that, I was and I wouldn't even say it was betrayal. I think it was God. Like sometimes we're in it and we're like, we really thought that this was the person or we was going to do this together. And God is like, no, I have a different way for you. I have a different plan for you. And you're like, no, I want it to be with this person because that person has helped me so much along the way. And it was very evident because I was with that person every day. Like he was a big factor in This Is 30s. But beyond that, we kind of started together. So when you start with somebody, you have visions and you have dreams where you like, I want to make it because of you too, because I want to give you everything because you believed in me so much. So I think it was misalignment. My truth and my identity started to get stronger and stronger. Like I want to do things the right way. I want to do things with integrity. I want to do things where people like, you make so much money doing this. And I'm still like, nah, that's not in alignment with what I want to do.
Well, that's what you do now.
Yes.
You do that now.
And during then, I didn't know that's who I was. So these opportunities kept showing themselves to me like, you going to take this for the money? And I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that because that's not what I stand on. And I would go and be like, but other people started to reveal like, oh, we can make money real quick. We can make money real quick. And I started to understand that that's not who I'm in alignment with. I'm not in alignment with people who want to make money or get famous. I could care nothing about that. I want to make God famous. I want to make sure that when I get money, I could bless other people. And I saw that this year. And I know we'll talk about it, but I was just like, dang, I hired over 100 people this year. 100.
That's a big deal. I'll tell you this, one of the things that I know I've learned along my journey and I can really appreciate, and you and I talk about sometimes, is embracing the gift of goodbye.
Yes.
Right? And when you are able to accept that is part of life and it is a gift, because the next door can't open until the door before it closes. And it's okay. It's okay. Every time a relationship comes to an end or a situation comes to an end should not necessarily be dramatic.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be painful.
No.
It doesn't have to be argumentative. You don't have to necessarily hate each other's guts. It's just time for it to be over.
Yeah. And sometimes those relationships we still cool. We still friends. We still
But we don't have to deal.
Yeah, we don't have to deal on that. Everybody is not privy to your ministry.
That's right. That's right.
Your inner circle are, your most sacred parts. And your vision is the most sacred of all. So at the end of the day, where you want to make sure everybody is involved, and God is like, this is what I'm birthing into you. This is your baby.
Your vision and your access.
Yes.
You need to protect that at all. And another thing is, and I know this, and I see it on your life especially, but I remember it was probably about 25 years ago. I remember visiting Grace Christian Community Church that was pastored by Dr. Christopher Chappelle. And I remember him doing a sermon, and he talked about, be careful about the people that you have in your circle. Because when God blesses you, He doesn't just bless you a little bit. The blessings are in an overflow. And when the overflow comes, those that are attached to you will get some of that. They're going to get it.
Yeah.
And if they're attached to you, but they're not aligned to you, you have people being blessed because of you.
And they think it's because of them.
And they should not be getting your blessing.
And that's when entitlement comes on them. You're graced to do what you're graced to do. And one thing that I've noticed is if people can't identify the gift in you, that's a sure tell sign you need to be careful. If someone comes and be like, oh, Eb, I can do it. That's someone that will covet.
When people know what you've been through.
Yeah, that's
and then they jump onto it and try very hard to convince you that I'm different. Beware. Beware.
Yeah.
Because I think you've experienced a lot of that this year too, right?
Yeah. Last year was hard. A lot of people was like, oh, you got this feature film, you got great stars in it. But it was one of the hardest years of my success, and where people was excited and like, oh, look at you, you're doing this. And I'm like, yo, I'm crying every night. Like,
why were you crying every night?
And that was because I was finding out who people were. I was finding out just who I was.
Success is lonely.
Success is definitely lonely. But the isolation is, and I saw it, the isolation really true. Isolation, separation, then elevation. So I would go through seasons of isolation, separation, and then next thing you know, someone calls me and like, hey, we got this distribution deal, or hey, we got billions of dollars for you. And I'll be like, okay, that's the elevation. And the seasons where you feel like you're supposed to be happy, you're like, I'm excited. This is what God is calling me to do, but God, I want to be joyful. How do I get my joy back? And I think that's what I'm embarking on now. Like,
are you genuinely happy, Jen?
I think I am. And it's so funny. I just saw Lisa. She was like, and I think so, because the people that he's bringing, and the enemy wanted me to go through that season to make sure I cut off people, to make sure I don't deal with people no more, to make sure I'm like not who I am no more.
And that they're not benefiting off of your overflow.
That too.
You had a situation like that this year too. Someone benefited greatly off of your blessing, an overflow.
Yeah. And he wanted that too. He wanted me to cut off. The enemy wanted me to cut off everybody.
Okay.
Where God just wanted me to cut off some certain people. And he wanted me to be like, I'm gonna do this alone. Because isolation and separation, isolation and truly making sure you're not bothered with people is two different things.
And you and I both know we can't do this journey alone
at all.
You need people.
Yes.
You need people. It's just the right people.
It's the right people.
Right.
So, so then you start to thank God for those people. And then you start to make sure your heart is right. I went through therapy. I would call my therapist, and I think people shame therapists. And she's not even therapist. She's an inner healing coach. Like we would talk about God. She would make sure I had the Holy Spirit telling me exactly who to connect with and who not to connect with, and trusting that. That's a lot of the times, and I think you say it all the time, Jen, it's you. Because I would be like, no, it's this person and it's that person and it's that person. And I think I'm waking up to who I am. And that's why I'm happy. Because I'm waking up to who I am and I'm now understanding like, okay, I need this. I need that person. And I just connected with a management team, got more fruitful relationships where it's like we're going into partnerships where I was afraid, but then I feel like God is giving me peace. You know, I just got a funding company that's like, what's your vision for the next 5 years? And I think at the end of the day, I had to go through forgiveness. Because sometimes we just let those things linger. We just let those people stick around and we don't forgive them. And that blocks our blessing.
I think you're very forgiving because I remember we were on set together for a project and it was somebody who had burnt you pretty bad. And they ended up showing up to the set and I didn't know that this person had done you wrong. And you came to me and said, hey, Ebony, so-and-so and so is on set. I said, what? Okay, let me go get him. Tell him not to come back. And you said, hold up. I don't want you to fire him.
Yeah,
you said, keep him here because I don't want to be in the way of his blessing. Even though he hurt you. Yeah. You still did not want me to fire him.
No.
That says a lot about you.
Yeah, and that's how I know when I forgive someone. When I could pray for them and see them the way God sees them. But I'm still dealing with it now. Let me just tell you that. But when the person shot me, I prayed for him. He got shot a little bit after I got shot. I don't know how. Don't link nothing up. But I remember crying that he do not die. You know, so from then I was like the power of forgiveness, the power of just making sure that my heart was pure on this journey. And that is what blesses me because you meet people in the industry. I know a lot of celebrities and they're closed off. They don't want to deal with people. But how do God bless you?
Well, you know, that's what you and I talk about a lot because you have to work with me on that because, you know, I'm very closed off from people. I'm very close. But that's become because of years of betrayal, hurt, and pain. And every time the knife enters my back, another layer of protection is added to me to a point where I used to be extremely extroverted. Yeah. To now I'm extremely introverted. Extremely. To the point where sometimes, Jen, you're like, Ebony, are you coming outside? But but I know that for me, it's just protection. Yeah. Because I've been hurt so badly. And that's one of the things when I see within you, I'm like, oh my God, she is a pure soul. There's not many people like that in the industry. And I'm so super protective of it because I know that these vultures out here, they are like magnets to pure souls.
And they would show up as if they want to help you. Yep. And I would be like, so I had to break off that victim spirit because I would be like, yes, help me. Oh my God, save my day. But now that's not where I'm at anymore. I'm like, the only person that can help me is me and God, you know? So knowing that allows me to walk into this next season of being in charge of my happiness, being in charge of who I let in, being in charge of my safe space and noticing red flags. You would notice red flags and I would notice red flags and I would still keep going. You'd be like, Jen, be careful. And you said that as soon as I came and we worked on projects together, you was like, I need to protect you. And I was like, no, it'll be okay. It's okay, you know? So at the end of the day, I love the people around me that want to protect that because I don't want to change.
Yeah. This is the thing. As we grow, that pureness inside of you should remain. But you're going to change. And it's not that it's bad. It's just that it has to happen to survive in this industry. To survive, you can't be as accessible. Yeah. You can't be as trusting. And you can't be so available to so many bodies, so many people. Because if you do that, you're not going to survive. You're not. People are like ticks. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And leeches. Yeah. And they'll continue to use you as long as you allow them to. And So that is one of the things that I am also, just so you guys know, I'm going to be watching. So if you're trying to come around Jen with these impure motives, I'm in her ear. I'm going to tell her what I know and what I see, right? So you just forget about it. But so let's talk about future Jen. So Jen, I mean, you're in your mid to late 30s.
Yeah, 36.
Okay, 36 years old. Children in the future, marriage, is that something that you think about?
I do.
Okay.
Yes, I want 3 children.
Okay.
I want an amazing husband, a man of God. That was the first on my list. And I think I just really went through my list. And
so you on this list thing. I keep telling these girls, you keep hollering about a list, you may end up alone.
No. I didn't create the list.
Who created the list?
God created the list.
Okay.
Because the list I had done went out the door.
Okay.
Like truly out the door. And on the list, the only thing that I can honestly remember is number 1 is man of God. And I don't want to be too forward or to talk about the future so much, but I remember a season of my life where I wouldn't ask anybody like, what's their relationship with God? And it probably was a fear that the relationship will end, or that I wouldn't be with him no more, or I can change him. I have a strong relationship with God. He gonna see it on my life. He gonna be like, she's so nice. I just want, and that wasn't working, So recently, I think within the last year, because marriage and relationship wasn't a main focal for me, I just felt like it was going to happen. I was like, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have kids. But I didn't go after it like I went after success. I didn't go after it like producing or, anything else. And I was like, hold on, I'm 36, no children, no kids. My friends are getting married. I'm in their wedding. I'm like, hold on, wait, what am I not doing? And then I started to focus on that. I started to read books about marriage. When God Writes Your Love Story, Ruth, Esther, the Bible, just learning that. And if you read Esther, she laid in the bed with the king. Like she went after. And then when you read about Adam and Eve, Adam was asleep when God presented, So those were my prayers. I was like, God, wake my husband up to who I am. Wake him up to who he is. And so when I just recently, like last year, I would meet somebody and be like, who do you believe in? And then they'll tell me and I'll be like, okay. So that was the deciding factor. And I started to see some success within that. Like, okay, even if someone probably tell you that and they don't, you can tell if a person have a relationship with God. So
does this person have to be wealthy?
No.
Okay.
No.
So could they have been married before, children? When you talk about this list, what are some of the things?
It literally was only God.
Just it. That's it.
The old list was anything. Like they could have kids, they did, but it was really, if you know him, you know who you are. And that.
Well, how do you protect yourself from now this newfound fame and success that you have? How do you keep yourself from finding someone that's attracted to that?
I think I let go of all control and all fear too. And I think because whatever I put out, they're going to receive it. They're going to perceive it. And, so I let go of that whole, a lot of people came back in my life. A lot of men.
I'm sure. Once they start seeing the success.
A lot of men came
I was
back
just
in
watching
my
a
life.
podcast on my way over to a meeting, and it was guys. It was a guy podcast, and he was talking about women need to be careful because the new gold diggers today are men.
Yeah.
And they were saying that because majority of the women are the breadwinners now. And he was saying it's very easy for men to get us now because we're on social media.
Yeah.
You're posting your favorite food. Everyone knows I love lemon drops because I post it all the time. They'll know your favorite location. They know your favorite flowers. They know they know your lingo. So they know exactly how to structure themselves to come in and win you over. How do you protect yourself now as a single successful woman from the newfound gold diggers that's out here?
I think it's making and allowing that person to meet the people around me. Like, you protect me in business, you're gonna protect me with that too. You get what I'm saying? So the things as women we see as googly eyes, like, the people around you be the ones that be like, I'm gonna keep an eye on that one. And I think that is, sometimes we are hiding who we're dealing with, and that's one of the biggest problems.
Well, some women, Jen, want a man so bad that they'll know that that's why they're there. I have some girlfriends that I know that actually married guys that knew that they weren't about nothing.
Oh, no.
Right? But they just wanted to be married.
Yeah.
They didn't have jobs or any type of form of way of making money. They just wanted to be married, and they knew that the men were probably with them because of what they had. But they just wanted to be married.
Yeah. No, and the number 2 was vision.
Okay, vision.
God and then vision.
Okay.
What we working on.
Right.
What we building on. What marriage is love, but then after that, 90% of it is business and vision.
Because love ain't gonna pay the bills, sis.
And
let's talk about it though, because in Africa, there can be arranged marriages, and in those arranged marriages, there was no love.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was just like, you take care of the house.
You take care of the house, and there's commonality because y'all came from the same types of families and then they grew to love each other.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think marriage is a ministry, and I think the man that I marry, we're going to be called to do amazing things together.
Okay.
And if that is not what I perceive from you, or if that's not what, even if you can articulate your vision, and then I can see you going after that, because at the end of the day, I know my stance as a wife is to pour into you, to speak life into you, to make you believe in who you're supposed to be, because you got the world out there, but when you come home, you're going to I'm your crown.
That's right.
That's what it says in the Bible. I'm your crown. I call you king. So just knowing that as women and knowing our power and our authority, I'm not going to slander you. I'm not going to talk bad about you, but I am going to build you up. And I'm going to need to see some fruit after I build you up. Got my eye on somebody, but at the end of the day, we're doing the list. Like, okay, we're checking balance. Like, if I say this, do he show up? Do he pull up? Do he hear? Do he listen? Is he being very attentive to what I'm saying? And is he doing what he say
supposed
he's
to
do? So I'm watching that, and then people around me are watching that. So I think we're in a day and time where we hide our relationships. I ain't hiding nothing.
Okay. So you believe in putting it all on social media?
No,
okay.
not that. I mean, like, not from social media.
Okay.
I'm talking about real people.
Right.
Bringing that person around your friends.
Well, let me tell
family.
you something. If you starting to hide and all that other stuff, child, it's something else going on now.
Yes.
Okay? I'm going to be honest with you. If you start talking about I can't meet friends and families and all that, they got a friend and family already at home. Okay?
And I've been through that.
Right,
I've been through that. So
right.
Social media is fake. I mean, it's
think
real,
about social,
but
yeah.
I'm kind of sad.
If you want to protect your relationship, keep that very sacred and don't necessarily bastardize it on social media.
Yeah,
Be careful about that, because social media can mess up a great thing.
I've seen it.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, we know we're in closing. What's next for you, Jen?
Well, I just shot my feature film.
Okay.
Called The Despaired.
All right.
It should be out in October, but because of the strike, we don't have the participants of the actors right now. So we're kind of going back and forth to see if we want to make it in January or make it in February, where we can bring a lot of marketing tools to that. And, it's just a great marketing business. It's done. It's complete. We saw it. I want to share it with you when we're done. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure I don't stab myself in the foot, because I want to make sure it's released at the great time where people can see the work that I've done. So after, I'm working on another feature film. It's called Something Worth Fighting For, and that is very dear to my heart because I'm writing it. You know, the Christian thriller movie that we just finished. And
it's already signed to network.
Yes.
Can you announce that yet?
With an S. Yeah, I can. I will.
And it is not Mama and Daddy.
No, it's not.
It's a big deal.
It was BET Plus.
Yes.
And BET Her.
Congratulations.
So
Congratulations.
That is a big deal. I think it's my first time saying it out loud because it was something we were trying to decide on. Like when you have a bidding war. And I think that was exciting because I worked on a project with Marlon Wayans and I'm literally talking to his manager and his manager like, yeah, we're going through a bidding war. And I'm like, wow, I can't wait till I go through a bidding war. I don't even know what that is. And literally months down the line, I text Steve, Marlon Wayans manager. I mean, it's his best friend. I text him, I'm like, I'm going through a bidding war. And he like, dang, so that's something that people have seen on my life. Like if I say like I want that and I look at it and I write it down and I'm like, that's what I'm gonna do, God just be like, yeah.
So we're just getting started. Right? BET Her, BET Plus, and several other major projects that you're currently. I'm so proud of you, Jen. I'm just gonna keep going. You're just gonna keep going. Keep going.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. I know that is a lot of people out here that probably call you sis and girl and da 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 da. But I genuinely have your back.
Yes.
And anything that I can do to be of assistance for you, your dream, where you're going, definitely let me know. I am so super proud of you. And if anybody deserves this newfound success, it is you. And I am so glad to finally see good people winning.
Thank you.
Because so many times we're seeing people that are being put in position that don't have the heart that you have.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming out here today and sitting with us.
Anytime.
Sharing your story, sharing your challenges.
Yeah.
Because, it's some other little young girls back in DMV that's wondering, who hears me? Who sees me?
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
Yep.
I was there. So at the end of the day, I know God's hand is on my life. I'm here to bring revival into the entertainment industry. And you asked me that. You was like, what's your purpose? What's your purpose? God is my calling. Film is my ministry. So
I remember you told me this in closing. You told me that God placed you here because he wants you to save souls in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is people will hurt me, but then I'll go home and pray for them. Like literally pray for them and want them to succeed and still be like, come to church, because I can't let them mess up the seed that I was supposed to plant in their life. So yeah, that's why I'm here, to love people.
Yeah, and you're doing a good job of that, Jen. Well, thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Coinology, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Ab.
Get no money if you constantly worried about what everybody else got to say. If you constantly got your eyes on what everybody else doing, you ain't getting no money. When it comes down to closing the deal, I get it done. Every single one. I'm just going to find you a hotel.
Welcome to Coinology, the podcast.